So if you are buying a home in the Phoenix metro area, is there a time of year that is going to be the best for you to really make sure that you're getting the best deal? And the thing is, for sure, we do see seasonal trends every year where there's a certain time of year that's definitely more competitive than other times of year. You know, Phoenix, the past handful of years has definitely become a fairly competitive market. Now, it varies depending on what part of Phoenix metro you are in, but yeah, it certainly can be competitive. So how can you take advantage of seasonal trends and really try to get the best deal for yourself? Now, it's pretty funny or ironic, I would say, that I do have a lot of clients that are relocating here from areas that have four seasons. You know, a lot of people on the East Coast, Seattle, Washington area, and then, you know, Chicago. We see a lot of people moving from there to here. And in their markets, it's pretty typical for them to see, you know, spring is usually the most competitive time. Things kind of simmer down in the summer and then definitely slow down during the holiday season. And a lot of these people moving from these locations, they're sometimes under the impression, because Arizona doesn't have four seasons, and we have a very beautiful winter, that the winter is going to be the most competitive time of year. And the actual reality behind all of this is our seasonal patterns and seasonal trends in Arizona are actually very similar to other parts of the United States. But let's actually get into some of the nuances and really break apart when some of the best times are to purchase a home. So one of the best things that you can look at to really see the historical trends or seasonal trends in Phoenix metro area is actually looking at the contract ratio right here. So the contract ratio really is a great measure of showing how competitive the market is. So of course, the higher the number, if you get up closer to 300, that means it's crazy. When you get further down here, you got the hot market, warm market, and cool market. And this is what this really is looking at, is how many homes are actually under contract compared to how many homes are actively listed. So if you look here too, we can see that there's some nice little humps here, and this is going back over 10 years. So the light blue down here, that's starting the beginning of the year. So that's when we typically have the least competition, right after the holidays, and then things start to pick up pretty quickly, you know, through February, March, and then the green, this is more April, May area, and this is usually where we see the natural or the competitive state of the market kind of hit its plateau, and then the rest of the year, there's just this slow decline of competitive nature until we get to the holidays. And that's really when things kind of start to stop. And we can see, you know, this natural little hump throughout the year. And even in these, this is 21 and 22 when the market was like crazy, but we still kind of see that natural hump, even though even in the wintertime, it was still nuts. It was still a really competitive market. There was still kind of that natural trend. Now this year right here, this is 22. I would say that we saw the drop off. You can see it was a little bit earlier than some of the other years. And this was primarily due because that's when we started to see interest rates go up quite a bit. And there was a direct impact on demand. Now I just had a recent client where he was planning on purchasing a home this upcoming September, October, and he expressed a little bit of concern about purchasing this time. And I said, well, it actually might be advantageous for you because that's when we start to see things kind of slow down. There's less competition, so you might have more buying power. And he raised an interesting concern. And this was, well, if things are slowing down, there's probably going to be less homes available for sale. And then I'm going to have less options. And that's not really ideal either. But that's not necessarily the case when we look at the data. So let's take a peek at new listings per a calendar month. And this is collecting data and averaging it since 2000. So for 24 years or almost 24 years. And you can see, let's start actually at the end. This is November and December. And you can see no one's listing their home or many less people are listing their home during this time. And this is typically when we see the people that are listing their home during the holiday season usually have to really sell their home. There's usually a reason they have to move. Maybe they're relocating, maybe they had a new baby and they outgrew their house, or maybe there was even someone in their family that passed away. But usually those are the people that have a reason to move. Now, the rest of the year is pretty even. You know, the one exception is January. January usually has a little, you know, surplus of listings just because things where people weren't listing their homes during the holiday. Now everyone's putting it out on the market. So it's pretty common that we see an influx of listings in January right here. And then March is another one. That's a really hot month or competitive month for us as far as new listings go. I shouldn't say competitive, just, more new listings. But the rest of the year, all the way through October, we're still getting a lot of new listings. I wouldn't say there's one time a year that we see a ton of new properties hit the market. Now, something to keep in mind about this chart is this is looking at new listings, not the total amount of active listings currently at that time. And the reason I'm pointing that out is typically towards the end of the year, we do see demand go down. There's usually less buyers. Even though we're seeing the same amount of listings, there's less demand. So what inevitably happens is homes kind of typically stay on the market a little bit longer during September, October, November than they do in the beginning of the year. And as a result of that, because homes are staying on the market, then we see like the total amount of listings on the market increase towards the end of the year. So not only are you getting the same amount of new listings, but you're having listings stay on the market longer. So you have more to choose from typically in the fall. And if you look at this chart right here, this is the past 5 years, and you can see that. So we started off with the total listing count, in the beginning of the year, it's fairly high. It's right after the holidays. A lot of people are posting their homes at this time or listing their homes at this time. And then because of the competitive nature, homes are going quickly, so it kind of drops down. And then over the course of the year, as we proceed towards the holidays, we just have more homes because homes are sitting on the market a little bit longer. Now, this brown line right here, I would say is the exception, and that was 2020. COVID happened. You guys get it. Okay, so you can see from these data points, there is less competition. You're going to have more options out there in the fall, or as you progress throughout the calendar year. And of course, there's less demand, there's less buyers out there, so you're going to have less competition. But this is something we have to keep in mind, that kind of playing the seasonality game or trying to time the time of year to best purchase a home, you have to keep in mind that just like one little piece of getting the best deal. And I'm going to visually show you this. So this is looking at demand from 2001 across the board. So again, demand is, how many people are actually out there looking for homes. So if we look in really, really closely, we're going to find these natural, nice little humps where, the demand, it increases during the spring and then slowly decreases. But you really have to kind of look for it, right? It's not, when you take a step back and look at the chart as a whole, like you're seeing a lot of ups and downs, and it's not necessarily directly related to the seasonal trends. So we don't see those natural humps like what we do, these pretty nice humps that we see with contract ratio, right? The demand is just going to look, there's a lot more volatility. And the reason for this is that demand is just so closely tied to what's going on in the economy. So if you look here, right, this is 2008. Well, we all know what happened in 2008 with a Great Recession. Of course, that decreased demand quite a bit. And then you look over here, this is 2020, COVID, right? That's when the springtime of 2020. So there was immediate drop, right? And then of course, we know things went crazy here is because interest rates were high. So you just have to keep in mind that demand is much more strongly influenced by economics and more importantly, affordability than it is by seasonality or typical seasonal trends. And something to really take note of, the factors that really impact affordability and subsequently demand, it really comes down to 3 big things. Of course, you have interest rates. Right now, we've been hovering around 7%, and a lot of economists and experts are predicting that we're probably going to be staying in the 6 and 7s for some time. Now, the other thing is median sales price. And you have to keep in mind in Phoenix Metro, it is such a huge region that we do see the median sales price vary quite a bit. I mean, it's going to look way different in Scottsdale compared to Buckeye, compared to Gilbert, Arizona, right? You're just going to see a lot of variance depending on the submarket that you're in. Now, the third thing really is, how much are people making? What's the median salary? And that's really, if we have a really high median sales price, the median salary is really, really low. It's going to be tough for people to afford a home. So that's naturally going to decrease the level of demand. But if you're in an area, I think Gilbert's a perfect example. The median sales price actually is fairly high there than other parts of the Phoenix metro area, but the median salary is also really, really high. So people are able to afford it. So the point of this really is, is there a perfect time of year to buy a home? And not necessarily, because there's just so many different real estate market, or economic trends that impact you finding that good deal. And also there's some subjective things as well. What is your financing? What type of property you're looking for? Are you okay with a property that maybe needs a little TLC, some paint, some new floors, that sort of thing. But generally we do see, the market really is slower and there's the least amount of demand in towards the end of the year, particularly during November or December. However, I would just say it does vary depending on what submarket you're in. Since I'm using Gilbert as an example, I'm going to use this. Okay, we're in a competitive market. It's still, the past couple of years, even during that winter time, it was still considered a seller's market. There was still a fair amount of demand. So if you're looking for a house that's completely move-in ready, $500,000 with a pool, you might still be challenged, or it might still be difficult to find that home in December or November. However, if you're open to a house that maybe needs a little touch up, maybe, it's 90% of what your perfect home would be, and you found that in May, that might be financially the better decision for you and how to get the best bang for your buck. Now, if you want to get a pulse of the market today, what it's like in Phoenix Metro, if you go in the description, I have a home search there. Put in the city you're interested and some homes will pop up. Thank you so much for your time and have a fantastic day.